YouTube. Today is... It's a bit cliche for me to say today's a very special day, special video. It's my birthday today. I'm 32, which is older than I've ever been, but younger than I'll ever be again, so, you know, you take what you can get. I used to do a video on my birthday every year from about sort of 19 through to 30. I did every year like something. Last year I didn't. The year before it was kind of nothing. And I wasn't going to bother with anything this year either. Except it occurs to me that it's 5 years ago today since I put up this really quite pretentious and self-indulgent video.
You've got to push onwards and upwards, you've got to keep on going, and if people can't see me unless I introduce myself to them, then, well, so be it. Hello, my name is Deborah, and regardless of what you instinctively see, internally, I am a woman.
And that was the point at which I sort of generally and publicly came out as transgender. That was kind of a big moment. And I just thought it might be nice to talk about that for a little bit, if I might be indulgent once again. It's been 5 years. It's not something I really talk about that's really not the focus of my channel. Little things come up here and there when relevant in my end of year video. This has happened, that's happened. But for the most part, it's not really a topic I often have much to say about, but it's my birthday. It's been 5 years. Let's talk about where I've been in that time. What's been going on. So I did watch back that video from 5 years ago in sort of preparation for this one, just to kind of put my head back into the space of then. And obviously at that point, before then, I'd told a handful of close friends and my sister, and that was it. That was all the people that I think knew up to that point. That video was the same day that I changed my name and my pronouns and all my social media and uploaded a much more sort of feminine presenting, as best as I could at that time, picture. That was sort of, if I have to pick a date at which I've been living as female, that's the date I'd pick. It's then, specifically. And like I said, up until that point, I told a few people I'd kind of eased myself out. My wardrobe had sort of slowly shifted in a more feminine direction. But, you know, it was sort of subtle stages that was, you know, plausible deniability in there. I'd brought makeup into my general rotation. I'd been doing my nails by that point. But it was kind of small scale for the past like year up until that point. And after that, where did we go? What happened? Anyone who is transgender or has like a close friend or relative that's been through all this will probably know the system is very, very slow. It's not expedient at all. I got quite a good speedy run by general standards. In terms of what I've been hearing from other people, I kind of lucked out a bit. So that video went out June the 29th, 2019. December that year, I sought out sort of medical advice on what I could do. What now? So it was December 2019. I remember it was a horrible rainy day, and it was the same day I put my foot through the ceiling in the attic. So it's funny the things you remember. So that day I went to see my GP, who put me in touch with the local gender services up at the hospital. She gave my details to them and asked them to get back to me. They contacted me in February of 2020, setting up an appointment for August of 2020. And of course, by August 2020, we were in COVID lockdown. I was kind of hidden away more than ever. I'd been sort of in the 8 months between coming out and COVID, getting myself slightly more out there, introducing myself as Deborah, being me in the world. It was getting quite nice. And then everyone had to hide away for a while, which in some ways had its pluses, because I think I physically wasn't quite ready to... I mean, I was doing my best, you know, bless past Deborah's heart, she was trying, but I wasn't really doing a great job. How good a job I'm doing now, I'm sure, is up for debate, but, you know, it gave me time to kind of let my hair grow out, for one thing, because it's still not great, but at least it's got a bit of length to it now. And it kind of gave me time to get through all this, the waiting part of the system. So that first appointment, that was in August 2020, at which I was kind of given more information as to the things that would happen. To medically transition, you need a psychological assessment to sort of confirm gender dysphoria. Officially, you can't just say that you have it. You need to speak to a psychologist and have them rubber stamp it. But at that time, my local hospital's gender services didn't do that in-house. They do now. At the time, they didn't have that feature in-house. They had to sort of outsource it to Sandyford in Glasgow. So I was put on a waiting list for that, which I was told would be about a year and a half. But that the 6 months I'd waited up until that point would be included in that year and a half, so it would be about like a year, I was told. So that would have put me to late summer 2021. I was having sort of quarter annually little just checkups to see how I was doing in between that. But actually, I heard back at the start of 2021 for a first appointment in March, I think, for the psychological assessment. That was part 1, and part 2 and 3 were in late May and early June respectively. I cleared the assessment because, I mean, the thing with these, I kind of was like, oh gosh, what if it's all like trick questions and they're going to try and trip you up? No, just, I mean, my advice to anyone going through this is just answer everything truthfully, because obviously the information is there. If it's strong enough that you spotted it yourself, they will pick up on it. Just tell them everything, and you should be fine. I mean, that was what I did, and that it worked out fine. I just explained myself as best I could, and that was fine. I mean, a bit of a wait, but I hear about people that have like 5 years waiting for that first assessment that I had to wait 6 months for. Some people have to wait like 5 years for that. That's mad. That's terrible. So that was all done and dusted, and the doctor I spoke to for that said basically she was going to write up the official report, but she could send a sort of advance. Here's the in a nutshell. Yes, you're cleared with that. Definitely satisfied that you meet the criteria for transition, and then send that back to the doctor. So I didn't have to wait the 8 weeks or so it would take for the report to be officially drafted. I could kind of jump into things. So that took me to late June 2021. I had a lot of paperwork I had to fill through. I had to read up on all the bits and bobs and literature, just so I was fully making informed consent for that. And on July the 2nd, 2021, that was when I began hormones, which is 3 years ago in a couple of days from now. So we're coming up to 3 years, and that's been great. That's been super positive. Changes I've noticed on hormones. My hair has, like I said, my hairline was giving me a lot of stress through my 20s. I was like, this is bad. I don't like the rapid disappearance of this. Where are you going? It's still not great. It is better. I have pictures that I'm not going to share because they're not very flattering. It wasn't great. It's slightly better now. Obviously, the biggest change, the most noticeable change, I guess, is what's going on in this vicinity. That's great. It's amazing how quickly you forget what you used to look like. Because when I was watching that video from 5 years ago, I was like, oh my goodness, that's quite tragic. I don't think I've got a bra on under that dress. It's just whatever flabby. I wasn't on any hormones or anything. I was just like a little bit pudgy. So that was not a flattering silhouette. Definitely, the boob fairy came, and I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's pretty satisfactory. I remember saying to the original psychology assessment, I was saying that in terms of things that I, thought I may or may not need, in terms of your top surgery, I was thinking that's something I think to put a little pin in and wait and see what the hormones do. Because if I can be a little bit personal, the family genetic history tends, for me, to be a bit excessively large, to a degree that I don't think I would really want. I think that'd be too much. Trans women in general have sort of below average size, and I thought that's probably going to average out at something decent. And yeah, I was right. That paid off. So yeah, I don't really need anything else. They're here. They're fine. They could do with being a bit closer together, in my opinion. I'm not really designed for cleavagey clothes and low-cut things, and I have friends who are also trans that also just in hormones have much better than what I've got, and I'm happy for them. But you know what? I'm fine with what I've got. I think on the whole that's been fine. That's been great. My face shape has changed more than I'd have thought. Everything's sort of softened out, and that's lovely. I've had laser hair removal on my face, which was not fun. There's 15 sessions between late 2021 and the middle of last year. I went sort of roughly once a month for these, and it was in Dundee. I'd have to leave here at about 9:10 in the morning. I'd get to Dundee about 1 o'clock. My appointment would be either 2 or half 2, so I'd have to get across town to the hospital, do that, come back, bus out of Dundee about 4:20, so I'd have time to go down B&M, buy myself a bar of chocolate tea on the way back because I was feeling a bit miserable. The laser zapping the face hurt a lot. I mean, it got worse to start with as they kind of dialed up the volume, and then it got less sore as there was less stuff for them to zap towards the end. But yeah, very unpleasant smell, sort of frazzled follicles. But yeah, that was the thing I did. What else? Speech therapy. We've not quite gotten there yet. I was watching a video from November last year, and I sound much better than I do now. I'm not quite sure what's happened there. I think maybe I'm not practicing enough. I was almost there, and I've backpedaled. I do have a slightly sore throat at the moment, so I can use that as an excuse, but I don't think I generally sound as good as I did last autumn. I maybe need to practice a bit more of that. But yeah, that's been good too. I got my gender recognition certificate. That was the other big thing that's happened to me recently. Now this is a contentious issue. This is way more hassle than it needs to be. A lot of far more eloquent people have said a lot more meaningful stuff about it than I have. All I will say is it is so much more hassle than I think it should be. I think it's really a bit excessive. So you basically need to start working on your application about 2 years before you put it in. You've got to gather 2 years, exactly 2 years, beginning and ending 2 years before you put your application in to immediately when you put your application in, and you need to have not completely evenly spaced, but pretty evenly spaced 8 pieces of different information that you've been living in your gender, which is it doesn't sound that hard, but it's not easy to do. It's surprising how little stuff, and some people might not have officially their name changed. I didn't have my name legally changed until mid-2021 because I put in an application in 2020 to have that changed, and it got stuck rattling around the system for months and months because the department was closed because of COVID. So like things like my bank, I couldn't have my name changed on that, and a variety of other bits and pieces had to wait until I had my name legally changed before I could have it changed on those. So that was a bit of an issue for getting all these bits of evidence. Then you need to have 2 medical reports, and everyone drags their heels on these. You're like, okay, can I have these reports? No, maybe, but if you're going to pay us £300 for it, says the GP. What? That's an awful lot, because the one from the local gender services, they gave me that for free, and they were quite speedy at that. But then the GP pretty much just needed to copy paste the same information, say yes, this is what's going on. But no, eventually they charged me £30 for it, but they made me wait and wait and wait. You've got to fill in a statutory declaration saying that you're going to be you, as far as you can tell, forever. Which is that's not too big a hassle. I went to the courthouse because that's free. You can get it done like at a solicitor's, or I don't know. I think it might be slightly different in England, but in Scotland, most solicitors are notary public, so you can get them, or else you can go to a justice of the peace, which is at the courthouse, which is a slightly longer wait, but it's like a month. Maybe I had to wait after making an appointment. So I've been aiming to have my application in for the start of 2023, but because of all these bits and pieces I had to wait around for this coming in and that coming in, it ended up being August 2023, and that meant that all the bits of evidence that I'd been gathering for the 2 years beforehand were suddenly all out of date. Because I had anything that was from before August 2021, they were just going to ignore. Which I thought, well, we'll take a punt and just give them a broad... I'll try and put something from between the start and the middle of 2023 just to bulk out that bit. I sent my application off in August. I didn't hear back anything until December when they were like, hey, we've not got enough bits of proof. You need to send more things for this period. I think the start of it, because all the 2021 stuff was just slightly cut off and there wasn't really anything between August and December of that year, and then there was nothing for the later bit of 2023. So send us more bits of that, and also you need a medical report. I've sent the medical reports, and apparently they needed the original psychology assessment, so I had to get a copy of that, which makes me think the GP thing that I had to pay £30 for and wait like months to get, did I not need that at all? I don't know. I still don't know. I'm very confused by that. But I got that printed off. Fortunately, I didn't have to contact Sandyford, who I tried to get a medical report from them, and I never heard back. So I'm glad I didn't have to get the report from them. I was able to ask my doctor locally at the Gender Services. She gave me that. So that was... But yeah, so I gave them all these things, and then they sent me another message back saying they still needed those things that I sent them. I thought, but I've sent you those things. And so basically for the first half of this year, I was constantly, or first quarter I guess, third, constantly finding things and bringing them and sending them in. I was like, oh, let's just find as much evidence as I can. And I think it was just poor communication, and they kept pushing back the date. It was going to be late January, then it was going to be early February, then I never heard back at all. I went away in late February, I came back in mid-March, still nothing. Contacted them, they said, oh, we're going to be reviewing your case in late April, but you might not hear back for 4 weeks after that. I was like, okay, so I guess if I haven't heard anything by May, I'll get in touch again. I'd submitted by this point so much stuff. I was like, surely they're not going to turn me down. Like, there's so much definitive proof that I've existed as myself during and long before the period in question. Because this is, early this year. We're up to about 5 years that I've been quite openly living as me. We've got this covered. So yeah, I heard back on the 20th. No, I think the 20th was maybe a Monday. Whatever the number it was the Monday that week they decided. The Friday that week they got back in touch to say that I'd gotten through. I'd been approved for my gender recognition certificate. That was finally sorted out. I've got my birth certificate has been amended. I'm officially female in all records. That's lovely. There's no dead name in the previously known as. It's just... it's as if I was me from the start. Here's the twist. Really, I was. So that's really all of that. That was kind of a whole deal. I've been very stressed about that the first half of this year. It was really, really stressing me out. So I'm glad I don't have that to worry about anymore. I've got other things to worry about, but that's a whole other thing. But that's the bulk of what's been going on. And looking back at that video from 5 years ago, that's a lot I've fit into 5 years. Some people have to just, that 5 years will go by and nothing will happen, and I feel really bad for them. I've got a friend who has been waiting for a first appointment since September 2022, and to my knowledge, she's still not been seen for a first appointment. I know a few people like that have been waiting for a few years, and everything kind of ground to a halt during COVID. I kind of just nicked through and had my appointment set up just before things kind of shut down. So I managed to get through. A lot of people aren't that lucky. But looking back to that video from 5 years ago, the thing that I think troubled me the most at the time was I didn't feel like people were really seeing me as me. And occasionally, very, very occasionally do I feel that still. That's mostly gone away now. The analogy I gave recently was I could see myself kind of through what was kind of in the way. It was like looking through a dirty window. And I could look through and I could see myself through there, but I knew that other people coming along would look and just see the dirty window. I could see the dirty window. If I looked at the dirty window, I could see the dirty window, but I was able to see me through it. All of this that I've been working on the last 5 years has essentially cleaned the window quite a lot. I mean, it's not a perfectly spotless window, but it's a lot better than it was. You can definitely, at a casual glance, you can see through the window should you choose to do so. It doesn't take great effort to see, through the window. So that's kind of the analogy I gave. And my kind of take on it is, having now transitioned to this degree, it's not going to solve all of your problems. If you set it up to be everything wrong in my life will be fixed by this one thing, then you're going to be kind of let down. Transitioning will solve exactly one problem, but it is, for me, and for a lot of people, a big enough problem that it is more than worth doing. If your gender dysphoria is such that, you're not fully able to exist as yourself, then, that you need to do what you need to do. I mean, but it's not, I've had a really, just in this sort of year and a half up to that video 5 years ago, I had a really hard emotional dip, and in the sort of year and a half up till now, I've had a really bad emotional dip again. And unless the thing that you are feeling down about is gender dysphoria, then transitioning isn't going to fix that thing. That thing's still whatever it is. And when it comes to people that aren't seeing you in yourself, I mean, they kind of come into two camps, and the more transitioned you are, the less of one you get, but the more of another. Because there's people who they look at you and they just see your birth assigned gender, regardless of how much you have physically changed, how feminine or masculine or neutral you're presenting. They're just going to see. And the thing is, I think that one stings more, because it's like, to me, I exist entirely as myself, but clearly not enough that this person is able to see it. That happens so rarely these days, so very, very rarely. It's happened like once, to me, in the last year, 2 years. Still hurts, but it's a lot less common. The more you're presenting as yourself, the less you'll find that happens. Then, of course, there's people that will misgender you on purpose. They'll be like, well, I can see this person is transgender. I can see which gender they are presenting as, so I'm going to deliberately refer to them as the opposite. Or, I guess in the case of a non-binary person, I can see that they are presenting as neither. I'm going to take a punt on what their birth assigned gender is, and I'm going to refer to them as that one. I mean, that sucks, but there's less of that once you're transitioned than there is of people doing it by accident, because everyone, unless you've told them, everyone is going to get it wrong when you're kind of not out and not actively presenting. If they don't, occasionally people will accidentally get it right, and that feels lovely. If you're looking like absolute garbage, which I frequently do, particularly in the early days, and someone gets it right, that hits nice. That hits really, really nice. It's like the exact opposite of the feeling when someone gets it wrong. So that's a nice one. But generally, you'll find that it's just people that are doing it on purpose, and it does start to feel like, how much do I care about these people's opinions? Obviously, in my case, I've had one close family member that has been awful about the whole process and is really no longer in my life, which, to be honest, I didn't particularly have fond memories of this person before I transitioned. It's not really... It's hurtful. There's a lot of sort of spite that this person is able to level, but you kind of have to be like, if affection is so conditional that me wanting to just exist in a way that I feel comfortable is unacceptable to them to the degree that they don't want to be part of my life anymore, then was there ever any affection there at all? And I feel like, no. So obviously there are negatives. The transphobes won't be transphobic to you if they don't know you're trans. I don't think that's really ever going to happen. I'm 5'11". I look like this. I've got hands the size of a bin lid. It's just, I can't escape their notice. I can avoid them. I've only had transphobic abuse shouted at me in public by strangers 3 times in my life. All 3 of those were in Devon. So, if you're trans and live in Devon, how does that go? Because my experience visiting there, I've been there 3 times. Happened twice the first time and once the second time. Why did I go back the 3rd time? I don't know. There seemed to be a lot of Pride events on when I was down there last time. So, I'm genuinely curious, anyone that lives in Devon that's sort of anywhere sort of LGBTQ plus space, how is it there? Is it as bad as my general vibe has been? I'd love to know. So obviously that's a negative. That's really, for me, being the only... That and bureaucratic red tape that you've got to jump through hoops to get past all this stuff. It really could be a lot easier. It should be a lot easier. It's not going to be a lot easier anytime soon. This is sounding a little bit too negative. Basically, for me, transitioning was the right thing to do. For some people, it's not, and that's valid. For some people I think, they transition and they think this wasn't correct for me, and then, they detransition, and that's fine too. Some people find themselves questioning their gender, and they don't tell anyone, and at the end of this sort of little journey they go on, they're like, actually, you know what? My birth assigned gender, that's who I am. And that's valid as well. I think everyone's got to kind of figure themselves out. It's one of these things, there is no universal correct truth that applies to everyone. It's very individual. And I think that's fine. I think it's... I just want to sort of share my own personal journey. It's not something that I generally talk about. It's likely I won't bring this up much outside of end of year videos if something interesting's happened. But yeah, that's basically that's it. That's what I've been up to the last 5 years. For anyone that saw that last video, I didn't think anyone would watch that because it was hidden. I did a little birthday sketch with a weird sort of little artsy bit either side, and then like the coming out in the middle. And I thought, yeah, no one's going to see that, but at least I can pretend everyone now knows I have come out. Obviously, on my social medias, I did much more broadly sort of affirm my identity and say, here, this is me now, this is what's up, this is who I am. But yeah, it's 107 people apparently have watched that video. I'm shocked it's as high as... I mean, it's not like 20,000+ like that Doctor Who video last year got, but 107 is a lot more than I would have expected for what looks like a nothing video about my birthday. So yeah, that's it. That's the end of the video. Anyone who wants to share their experiences, I'm always happy to listen. I'm very interested in hearing other people's journeys. 5 years ago, I didn't really know any trans people like at all, which is mad. I have quite a few trans friends now, and one of the things I find the most interesting is sort of comparing how I've gotten from where I was to where I am to how they got from where they were to where they are and where they're going, and I find that super interesting. It's so different. There's just no universal point of reference. There are key points that most people have to try and navigate their way around, but the route that they take to get there can vary, and the things that different people want out of transition are different. I find it fascinating. So yeah, if you've got anything you want to share, you don't have to be transgender to leave a comment. Tell me what you're getting up to on my birthday. I'm going out for pizza. and then I'm going to watch a Blu-ray at home of a Wes Anderson film. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for stopping by. If you're any of the 107 people that saw the video that this is a follow-up to, I hope this has been interesting for you to have this little bookend to that period of time and have a little catch-up. Yeah, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. I can't believe a whole birthday video and I've not brought up Genesis of the Daleks once. I've brought it up once.